Hi guys, it's Siobhan Muir. Welcome back. I know you guys are hungry because this is why we do this, right? We do this so it can be fun with cooking.
Yeah, you have fun because I'm the one doing the cooking.
Yes, but I do the baking, so
That's
it works
true.
out. It works out great in the end. All right, so tonight, what's really cool about this particular recipe is that there isn't a recipe. Okay, this is kind of something that we came up with when we were like, well, we have chicken and we have oil.
Ingredients.
We have ingredients. What can we do? And we need something quickly too, because usually when it comes to these sorts of meals, sometimes we're like, well, crap, now we're hungry. Now what do we do? So this particular recipe came about because we had chicken and we had, some vegetables or some pasta, and we just needed something to eat. And it's fast and it's easy and anybody can make it. You don't have to be good at cooking. Anyone can make this. This is really simple. But he's the cook and he does it most often, so I'm gonna let him explain it. Mr. SM is gonna explain it. And but we have this lovely array of goodies here.
Well, thank you, Siobhan. So this is what I affectionately call scratch chicken. Basically, you're making chicken, just this chicken saute, and for tonight's dish, I'm gonna make the scratch chicken. I'm gonna make a little bit of couscous. I'm gonna have some steamed broccoli, and for myself, I'm also gonna make some cauliflower rice, which basically is pre-packaged. I just throw it in the microwave and steam it up, and I'll add some butter and some parsley to that. But that's something simple.
Yeah, we don't make our own cauliflower. We don't do that.
I'm not that daring.
No.
I'll be honest.
We'll just throw it in. That's processed food that we agree with.
So with that, I'm gonna get the broccoli on the stove, and I will break down the ingredients I typically use for the scratch chicken and for the couscous. So one moment. Okay, for scratch chicken, I do one of two bases. I do either a butter base or a coconut oil base. Tonight, I'm gonna just use butter. You can use any amount of chicken you want. For our family, I tend to use a couple chicken breasts and so forth. And I will use anywhere from a stick to a stick and a half of butter, because this will create the savory sauce that I want to have go with it. So right now I'm going to start with a stick and go from there. If I were to use the coconut oil, I would end up using about 4 to 5 tablespoons, and that will be more than enough to flavor the chicken, because the chicken itself will get a different flavor between the two and give me enough of a sauce so that when I saute both the chicken and the onions. So the other ingredient aside from the chicken is basically one whole onion. You can use red onion, sweet onion, white onion, yellow, it doesn't matter, whatever you like, go ahead and use it. I tend to try and slice it fairly thin so I get a little more onion to go with this amount of chicken. So that is the main dish.
And when you use the coconut oil, you are going to get more of a tropical flavor. And so you can either go for typical, and butter sauce is really excellent, or you can get a little bit more of an exotic flavor with the coconut oil. It depends on whatever you have on hand. The idea, though, is you need some sort of oil. This is an oil, that's an oil. It doesn't matter which one you use. But it depends on the flavor you're looking for.
And if you're diabetic, it's really good to use either one of these, because they both provide a good amount of high fat, so that HDL fat that sadly I had to learn about. So, which made having this dish an even better one for at least me to learn how to adjust and modify my diet. So again, real simple. The scratch chicken is honestly 3 ingredients: onion, chicken, and some sort of sauce base. So with that, I'll use the stick of butter. While I'm at it, maybe I'll grab a second stick in case I need it.
Sure.
Because I'll see when I cook.
Gives a whole new meaning to butterball.
Yes.
But this really is a simple dish, and it's usually with items that you're going to have pretty much in your kitchen. Mm-hmm. Butter, onion, and chicken.
Now, couscous can be a little more of an interesting challenge Couscous is a great, simple, staple dish. Yes, it's a pasta-based item, so if you have to watch your carbs, that's part of the reason why I personally will be going with cauliflower rice, but it works great. And plus, showing people how to make couscous from scratch rather than something that comes out of a box is real simple. Couscous is great. It's sort of a 1-to-1 ratio. So I have a cup and a half of just dried couscous. I will just need a cup and a half of water. With that, you can make the couscous with straight water. It's sort of bland and boring because it's got no flavor. I like to add in a little bit of seasoning and so forth. I love pine nuts in my couscous, so I've got probably about a quarter of a cup of pine nuts here. I've got about 2 tablespoons of parsley. I'm gonna need a little bit of oil, but what I've noticed is the best way to do it is throw it in some broth. I like it with chicken, but I know people like it with vegetable. Don't know much about the pork side of things or the beef side of a broth, but chicken and vegetable broth work awesome for couscous. So with that, I'm going to start working on the chicken. The thing about couscous is it literally takes at most 10 minutes. You're maybe looking at 5 minutes to cook couscous total. So it's a great side to have. So with that, I'm going to move my side to my countertop in the kitchen so I can work on the chicken and go from there. So for an onion this size, I just simply cut it in half. And then I slice. Almost caught my finger there.
Don't do
That would not be good.
No, don't do that.
We don't need a little extra protein in our meal.
Please don't do that. We're not making slasher movies.
No. Though this knife is sharp enough to leave a mark. Come on. You're gonna be a pain. Alright. There we go. Onion is done. Let me grab a bowl. Put it aside. The one thing Siobhan loves from me is I make bowls and I make messes. Which as the cook, I don't mind, but you know,
As
she's
the
the one
dishwasher
who may not mind it nearly as much. So, onions are done. Now, for making scratch chicken, you can choose how you want to deal with the chicken. You can cook it whole if you want, but I personally like to have it in chunks. Now, you can do, let me trim that fat off. So, for scratch chicken, I usually start out with about a 1/2-inch slice of chicken. But I can go thin if I want. I can go as thick as you want. You can cut it into cubes. You can do whatever it is you want.
We prefer strips, I think, don't we? Mm-hmm. And that seems to be a good way of eating it over like pasta or rice or anything else. Again, we're making couscous tonight, but you can eat it over penne, you can eat it over spaghetti, you can, matter of fact, it's good pretty much on any kind of pasta and or any kind of rice. Brown, white, wild.
I would say if you're having it in spaghetti, I would definitely cut it down in size a little bit, just because you're gonna get, I'm gonna have a strip of chicken with the rest of my pasta. You might want to cut it down a little bit so that it gets a little smaller.
More like bite size?
Bite size, and that way you have a little bit of meat and a little bit of veggie to go with your pasta. So in this instance, I will just cut these in thirds, roughly. Doesn't have too much fat, and you can choose how much fat you want to keep on your chicken and or how little. Chicken breast works, chicken thighs work, any kind of meat will work. I tend to go with chicken because it's pretty pretty simple, fairly cheap.
He is using my unicorn cutting board.
Partly because I'd rather cut meat on a plastic or some sort of non-wood cutting board. I'm not a fan of glass because, my luck, I break the glass.
Or you dull your knives.
That too. So, but
Marble's not bad.
yeah, we don't have one of those.
No, they're awfully heavy though, and they take up space.
That they do. All done. We put this in the sink and we can get started on cooking. So, I like to cook everything on medium heat so it gets, nice even cooking. Let me start the broccoli. We know how to steam. Most people should know how to steam broccoli, so it should take about.
Why don't you tell them how you do it?
Okay. Well, for me, when I steam broccoli, I put my broccoli florets within the steamer basket. Put the steamer basket over a pot with about an inch of water, and then throw the steamer basket on. The heat's on high, and then all you do is put the lid on and let it steam. It takes roughly anywhere between 6 to 8 minutes to get it done. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You can get it where if it's slightly undercooked, now it's all to taste. So if you like crunchy broccoli, go for it. If you like super soggy broccoli, go for it. You know what you like. And so if you're making something and it's close to being done, take it off the heat, keep the lid on, it'll steam itself just enough and it'll be nice and tender when we get there. So, with this is starting to heat up, getting there. This will be my couscous pan, which right now is just gonna sit here because, like I said, it takes at most 10 minutes to cook couscous. So, once I pour the water in, actually, I would probably end up moving this to the front burner so I can keep track of it a little bit easier. But once it's done, it'll be real easy. All right, pan's starting to sizzle, and you can use anything: a skillet, a pan, a pot, if you wish. Just throw a stick of butter in, let it start to melt.
We have hard anodized pans like this, so we tend to use wood or bamboo instruments on it. If you use metal, you'll scratch up your pan, and then it won't be as nice, and it won't cook as nicely either.
You can season this however you would like. I like simple garlic and parsley, partly because garlic adds the flavor and parsley's fairly mild, and it gives a nice little color difference to it. So stick of butter is probably about 1/3 of the way melted. As soon as it pretty much melts completely, the next step will be I'm gonna add the onions in to let them start to at least saute a bit. In total, this dish, if you're doing it pretty quickly, takes at most 25 minutes, half an hour.
It's a good dinner to have when you're like, what are we gonna make? And we're so tired and we just want to make food. And it's quick, it's easy, and then you have a full meal at the end.
So I've done it where we have grabbed frozen chicken out of the fridge or out of the freezer, and I throw it in the microwave for a flash of maybe just enough to start thawing it so I can cut through it. But I've thrown it in frozen. I've thrown it in fully thawed. The only difference is if you do it frozen, it takes an extra few minutes to heat up the chicken to get it to cook through. You break up the onions a little bit. And what I'm looking at is getting the onions to start becoming a little more transparent, so opaque. No, not opaque.
Not opaque. Translucent.
Translucent, thank you. See, I'm not the wordsmith. I'm a cook.
And a rock nerd.
That too. I am a rock nerd. So I'm going to let that start saute a little bit. I'm going to throw a little bit of parsley in. Not too close to the heat. So maybe about a teaspoon. But again, whatever you like.
A little bit of garlic, right?
Just a hair. Again, comes out to maybe about a quarter of a teaspoon, a half a teaspoon. And it's not a whole teaspoon.
I would argue that you're looking at least a teaspoon, possibly more.
It's fresh. It's got bigger chunks in it.
Oh, right, of course.
So
Freshly dried, or freshly ground.
It's freshly ground.
There you go.
Okay. So we'll let that saute for a minute or two. And then we're going to throw the meat in and pretty much done.
How do you know when you need more butter?
Ah, good question. When it comes to butter, I usually, it's to appearance. It sounds sort of stupid when it comes to determining how much butter it is. I usually determine it based on how much chicken is actually in the pot. If I have a lot of chicken, I want to have enough butter to coat it so that it's got a good coating and it infuses into the chicken.
It also will have enough for a sauce.
Right.
Right? Because you want it, you don't just want it to coat the chicken and the onions, you want it to also provide something that you can spread over your side, whatever it is, whether it's the rice or the pasta.
Exactly. So, to me, more butter is better than less because it does add a good, nice, rich flavor. The same thing can go even with the coconut oil. More is better because both add a very different taste. The coconut oil is very much tropical, whereas the butter is a little more sweet. I prefer to use salted butter versus unsalted because I don't add salt to almost everything I cook is without salt. I use the natural salt that's within the food itself or some of the ingredients because I personally think that salt in and of itself, there's a fine line between just enough and just too much or way too much. And so throwing it in, so here we've got the onions are starting to lose a little bit of their color. They're starting to get a little more of that translucence and get nice and soft. But what I'm going to do is, while this is going, and I don't want it to cook too much, time to throw in the meat. Let me put this in the sink.
Now the nice thing about chicken is when it starts out very, very pink. But by the time it cooks in the right way, you will start to see white, not pink at all. So with chicken, particularly if you can't see color, once it turns white, do you see this thing, this edge here that looks kind of white as compared to the pink? That's when you know when the whole piece of chicken is that white color. That's when you know it's probably cooked entirely.
I'm going to throw a little more garlic in here. So, and one other thing, if you're not comfortable cooking meat because you can't tell color, you can't tell when it's cooked, because in something like this, you're not going to be able to stick a thermometer into it. Start with a thinner cut. You can't go wrong by going a quarter of an inch to a half inch or a full inch. If you like a thicker, heartier piece of meat, definitely cut it thicker. But if you're not sure as to how long to cook it or whatnot, by all means, start thinner and always go bigger.
And you want it to be white, but you also don't want it to have too much squish.
So here, this side is whitened up quite a bit. And maybe we can see the rind start. So this side's cooked, this side's not. Now, question was asked about butter. Well, as we can see here, there is not a whole lot of liquid in here for a sauce. So, with this amount of chicken, I am going to throw a second stick of butter in, just to be safe. And at this point, I'll just put the stick of butter in and just let it slowly but surely melt down and go from there. I'll put the lid on, let the heat start building up, butter will melt, and now the broccoli is getting pretty close. So it's got a good, nice dark color to it. Go ahead and try it, Siobhan.
I'm the broccoli connoisseur.
She's my vegetable tester.
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I would stay at my grandmother's house, and she would make broccoli and cauliflower, but she would steam the bejesus out of it. It'd basically be kind of green and white mush. And at that point, I'm just like, I will never eat her broccoli again. Fortunately, he knows how to cook it. Otherwise, I won't eat broccoli.
I try. That's all I do. I try.
Yeah, well, he doesn't cook it for, I don't know, 40 minutes.
So now we've got that extra stick of butter. Is adding a pretty good amount of a butter sauce. And I might throw a little more parsley on here.
I was thinking more garlic too, but
Okay.
we'll see.
How does it smell there, Siobhan?
Yeah, you could probably get away with more garlic.
Okay.
Chicken by itself is already pretty bland, and so you kind of need to, that's why people have barbecue chicken, because you need the sauce to give it any flavor. That's why we add so much garlic. The parsley only is a very mild flavor, so you're not going to get a lot of, at least in my perspective, you're not going to get a lot of flavor out of the parsley. But added to the butter, that makes the chicken taste pretty nice. And you don't have to marinate it.
Nope. So
I would turn this up a little bit, handsome.
Okay.
Because your chicken's not.
Well, but I'm not.
You're
this
not ready.
is not done.
I see.
So, but that's fine. But chicken is still a little soft and tender. You can still see a little bit of pink in here, but it's getting close.
The only trick about chicken is you don't want to cook it too long, because then it turns into rubber hockey pucks. White rubber hockey pucks, but still.
Let's try the broccoli.
Okay. Did you
I
set
know.
it? You did not?
You're standing right here. Why should I set the timer? You're usually in writing. I mean, why should I set a timer right here?
One more minute. And still a little bit more time.
Okay.
But it's close. Yeah, I like mine a little al dente. Ooh, it's starting to get there, isn't it? If you want to add more flavor to your chicken, the best thing to do actually is to have thigh meat. Thigh meat has a richer flavor and kind of, I wouldn't say greasier, but it's just like there's a richer, different taste to the darker meat than the turkey breast. The turkey breast requires, chicken. I'm sorry. Which bird?
Same thing.
Yeah, some sort of fowl. The chicken breast is probably the least flavored of all the chicken. It's most bland. So it takes a lot more spices to get it to go right.
Alright.
Alright, one last one. Yep, we're good.
Perfect. I'll take that off. Let's put that over there. Put this pot here. I'll take that lid off so it just airs out. Actually, this will be a good time to get started on this. Okay, so couscous. 1.5 cups of water to 1.5 cups of couscous. So I'm just going to pour the couscous in here. I've got, couscous does not come in
You
yet.
said pour the couscous in. I'm guessing that's pour the water in.
Well, pour the water in. Then I'm going to add, in this case, chicken bouillon, so that I can get sort of a broth going. And you just bring it to a boil. Add in my parsley. I've done it with basil, a little bit of oregano, and then just...
He's a huge fan of parsley, though. I finally ended up buying some parsley to put into his garden so he can get his own parsley.
I like parsley. I like the just simple flavor of it. It's a spice you sort of can't make a mistake on. So if you're not comfortable cooking with spices, parsley's a good one to start with. Basil can be very, very rich and flavorful, but a little too much and you can't eat it. And oregano is even more so. What I found is it's got a real nice kick, it's got a real rich flavor, but if you just add too much, it shoots the meal. So this is now boiling. Let's work on this real quick. We got a pretty good sauce still brewing. And I would say our chicken looks like it is literally done. It's got a little bit of give to it. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put the lid on, turn the heat off. I'm going to move it back to my last burner. And we'll let it cool for a moment. And lo and behold, water is boiling. I'm going to throw in my pine nuts, and then I'm going to pour in my couscous, stirring it in. Get it stirred in, throw the lid on, turn the heat off. I'm going to take it off that heat. Takes roughly about 2 to 3 minutes. The couscous is going to absorb that water, get nice, light, and fluffy. And I just need a fork, which we can just grab a new one. But lo and behold, the couscous is done.
That's how fast.
That is pretty much dinner. Now I'm going to put it up on a plate and we can sit and enjoy.
So there you have it. So you have chicken and butter sauce with onions, then you have the couscous, and then you have steamed broccoli. And it's really easy, really fast, and really the length of time that it takes to make this is pretty much the prep. Like you cutting up the vegetables and cutting up the chicken. That's it.
Prep takes 5-10 minutes at the most. Now, if it's frozen chicken, it's going to take a little bit longer, just because you're going to be fighting it. But if you're struggling to cut things fairly thin, partially frozen chicken works great. Because if you have a good sharp knife, it will cut right through it just enough that it's a nice thin, almost fillet. But yeah, the prep takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Cooking it takes 15 to 20 max. You can throw this on with rice. You can have regular pasta, any kind. You can do couscous. You can do cauliflower rice. You can just have the meat and the sauce with vegetables. It's all good. But yeah, it's a simple scratch chicken is what the Muir household calls it.
Yep, and it's good stuff. And it's a hearty meal and it's fairly well balanced. So you're not just getting stuck with, carbs and no vegetables. we had a guy that we was our advisor, and we kept telling him he had to eat a lot more greens, and so he said, "Hey, I eat green gummy bears. It's all good."
Got his greens.
No.
It really disappointed one of our classes.
It did. It totally disappointed one of our classes. She was, of course, a vegetarian, so she was like, "That's not green." But yeah, so that's a really easy meal to make for any weeknight, especially when you're tired. Just chop a bunch of chicken, add some broccoli, and call it good.
Yep.
Right?
That's it. So.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that it was obvious and easy to make. Yeah. Please subscribe to our channel. My channel.
Your channel,
It's
not
my
ours.
channel. But
I'm the cook. That's all I am. I do no other broadcast here.
that's true. So please subscribe to my channel. Ring that little bell so that you know when new videos go up. And thank you so much for joining us, right?
Yep.
So happy eating.
Happy
making, happy baking or cooking.
Yep.
Happy eating and happy reading.
Yeah. You know what? I don't.
Yeah. So thank you. See you
Butcher.
later.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.